Good morning to everyone. B'ezrat Hashem, Mincha is going to be at 8 o'clock. 8 p.m. is Mincha. Today is the 34th day of the Omer, which is 4 weeks and 6 days. Continuing in the Halachot of Muktze, we were talking last week about newspapers, or was it yesterday, about newspapers, and how some newspapers are not Muktze on Shabbat and others are Muktze. Secular newspapers are considered to be Muktze because you're not allowed to read them bichlad, not just Shabbat, but also during the week. But Jewish, religious, good content newspapers, Baruch Hashem, they have many of these in our times. Those are not Muktze on Shabbat, of course. But there is a very important halacha that sometimes people overlook. They say because the newspaper is from a respected publication with Da'at Torah behind it, so they look through the whole newspaper. And one has to know that there are certain parts that you're not allowed to look at, even if you're not reading it with your lips. Just looking at that part and skimming it with your eyes is asur, and those are the advertisements. Advertisements are not allowed to be read on Shabbat, even just with eyes. As an example, let's say you have a grocery store that's advertising sale this, sale that, or a jewelry store that's advertising its merchandise. All of these things, a person has to take his eyes away from that and not pay attention to that, because even though the newspaper itself is mutar to read, but the advertisements in the newspaper is still asur. And this is why Al-Vadi wrote, a person who's making a newspaper where he knows, or a magazine that you know most of the people are going to be reading it on Shabbat, what you should really do is you should separate the advertisements into its own section, as opposed to putting it together and meshing it together, because it's very difficult for people to not focus on the advertising. That's why people pay a lot of money for advertising, because they know people's eyes get dragged to the advertisements. So one has to be, as an individual, certainly one has to be careful to do his best to not to read the advertisements and to only read the good articles. If he thinks he's not able to do that, it's not going to be something that he's capable of doing, then he should just save it for Muktze Shabbat or for Erev Shabbat and not read it whatsoever, because it is asur to do it under the Gezerah Shtitrei Hedyotot. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'Amen.